QGIS Open Day. We have a jam-packed schedule today. It's very, very exciting. And our first session of the day is a Q&A about QGIS Relations and their widgets and plugins. We have two gentlemen here ready to show off this amazing functionality, and that, of course, is Dave and Damiano. And they will show us some examples of the plugins, how to implement special cases with the relation editing widget. And after that, we are free to ask any questions of them. So I do encourage you to comment in the live chat if you have any questions, or of course, join the Jitsi room if you would like to ask those questions. So over to you, Dave.
All right, thank you. I share my screen. Okay, welcome everybody to our session about QGIS Relations and the widgets. As Amy already mentioned, it's not a pure Q&A session. Instead, we make it in 3 parts. First of all, I will make an introduction to the basics of using relations in QGIS. After that, my colleague Damiano will show you the possibilities with plugins overwriting the Relation Editor widget for specific cases. And in the end, we will have time we try to answer all your questions concerning relations in QGIS. Well, here I already configured a project in QGIS here with 4 main tables, geometry table called building, then apartment, owner, and address. And here as well, we have a linking table. I will come back to this later on. First of all, I want to show you the entity relation model. So you have the context to the project. We have here the building table or the building entity, and a building can have multiple apartments, and an apartment needs to be part of a building. It cannot be an apartment for itself without having a building, but a building can stand here without an apartment, for example, when it's an industry hall or something. And here I marked it as the relation strength. This black box here, it means that when a building is demolished, all the apartments need to be demolished as well. It's kind of not an association, but a composition instead. I will show it later in QGIS. Then the building has as well a relation to address. Now, this relation is a 0 to 1 to 0 to 1 relation. And often if you have kind of 1-to-1 relations, you have to ask yourself why you don't just have one table, one single table building with address fields in it. But in our case here, maybe we want to, we build up a new building, not having yet an address because maybe the street is not yet constructed, or the opposite, when the building is demolished and the address still persists. And because of this reason, we don't want to have everything in one table, so we have kind of a 1-to-1 relation instead. And the third relation we see here is between apartment and owner, and this is a many-to-many relation. An owner can own multiple apartments, and an apartment can be owned by multiple owners. An apartment needs to have a minimum 1 owner, but an owner can have no apartment at all, in case he sells his only apartment he has. Well, let's have a look now at QGIS and the relations. First of all, back here to this, I forgot something here. This many-to-many relation in a normalized model, here we would need to have a linking table in between. And this is exactly the linking table we have here, the apartment owner linking table connecting the owner and the apartment table. And when we have a look now at the relations, here in the properties on the relation, we connected all those in QGIS as well. The first one is our one-to-one relation between building and address. In address, we have the foreign key building address to the primary key of building. Then the second one is building to apartment. And here we have here the strength composition. When we add a new relation, we can choose association or composition. And this is what I mentioned before. When the building gets demolished, the apartments should be demolished as well, of course. And so it means in QGIS, when you delete a feature of building, then all the referenced apartments or all the apartments referencing to this building or deleted as well. Or the same with duplicate a feature. When you duplicate a feature of building, then all the apartments are duplicated as well. And relation is this, we have two relations to it, the owner to apartment. We have a relation owner to apartment owner, the linking table, and apartment to the linking table. And this here are associations, but after thinking about it again, this should be compositions as well, because when an owner is deleted, the apartment still persists, but the entry in the linking table should be deleted. Otherwise, we do have orphan entries there in the linking table, but I keep it now for that because for our demonstration, we don't need to care about these orphan entries. I make a quick walkthrough these layers, features, and its relations with the widgets. First of all, I create a new building. Like this. It has only one attribute called description. I say all building, something like that. And then I have here the first relation editor widget leading to all the apartments. When I create new apartments now, I can create like this. I see now, I don't have that. I create the first apartment of tall building. And when I edit here, or I create a second one, so you see better, and then we have here the maybe the penthouse at the top. Let's say 10th floor. So we have here a list of all those apartments in this relation editor widget. When we have a look now from the apartments here, let's save them. I see I don't have the transaction mode activated here. This is, I think I opened the wrong project, but let's see if I can continue with it anyway. Let's have a look at the apartment. Of all building, and the opposite looks like a drop-down table to the building. Like here, for example, I can choose the building. Because I didn't save it before the tall building, I have my existing buildings here. Because I didn't activate the transaction mode with Postgres, what is really useful when having relations. And here I see in the drop down, I can choose the building where it is, and I show it now. With the existing buildings, I have here 3 buildings, and I can highlight them, like the big red building is this here, or I can choose the block building here, or I can choose the small house in a row here. I could create new buildings with drawing them like this here, or I can select the selection here on, when I select it on the map, it's added here to my building. So we have the two ways. We have the building with this Relation Editor widget, where I have a list of all apartments, or I have the apartment where I can choose the building in a drop-down. And this is called the Relation Reference widget. Now, the third situation I want to show you is this owners. This is the many-to-many relation, and we can have it here in a direct connection between apartment and owner. There is no linking table visible for the end user. So when I link them now, I can choose some more owners and add them like this. And here are the entries made in the linking table, but for me, it looks like a direct connection to the owner. Now, let's have a look at the configuration of all that. First, I show you in the this relation reference, the one we have here, in the apartment settings. I choose it here with the widget type relation reference and have here all abilities like show open form to open it, or allow adding new feature. That's the one when I add a new building from the apartment feature, and on map identification to choose it on the map. Here the relation is used. I choose the relation, and then I have all those possibilities. Now often asked question is, what is the difference between relation reference and this other widget called value relation? The value relation does mostly more or less the same, but it has no relations like I configured it at the beginning. It has nothing to do with relations. It's just a direct link to a kind of lookup table. I choose the table here, building, and then I choose the key column like TID, that's the primary of the building, and the value column, example, TID as well. And with that, I can use exactly the same. Maybe let's use like this. And when I open it now again, it looks more or less the same like before. Drop down as well to choose the parent building. Now, this is much easier because you don't have to configure references and relations, but the possibilities are limited. New parent features, for example, or you cannot jump to the form of it and so on. So it's kind of a much simpler solution, and often it's already sufficient, and then it's really nice to use the value relation, but in the end, you have more possibilities with relation reference widget. Well, and now let's have a look at the relation editors. Like here, for example, the one with the owner. We have here the configuration for it, that you can link the features, unlink the features, or add new child features and so on, what we did by creating the apartments, and here we linked the owner with these possibilities. Now, the trick how to make a direct connection to the owner is not choosing in the cardinality menu on relation to the linking table, but directly to the linked table owner over the linking table. Otherwise, we would just have a relation editor to the child layer or linking table. Yes. Now, finally, let's have a look at our one-to-one relation situation. We have here in the building, we have the address. And the address is a one-to-one relation, but because, of course, in one of those two entities, we need a foreign key to another one, and in the address we have this foreign key, and so with this, the address is kind of the child of building. And in our solution, it looks like this. It looks like I could multiple addresses, what is not the case. I could solve it with joins. Joins is not a technology independent from relations. It looks like this. I can add it here in the layer setting. I can join a layer called address to the building field and the ID of the building. And then I can enable here that it's editable, and I can use these fields here from the table address in my form building, like here. And then it looks quite nice. I can just add it, and it looks like it's in the same table, but it's not always that stable. My experience is that there could be problems with default values for IDs and so on. And so it's really nice, but it's a little bit critical to use them. And for that, maybe Damiano can show you later on a small solution we made for that as well. And yes, with this, I already want to give the word to Damiano, showing you now actually what is possible and doable with plugins to override this Relation Editor plugins to control the child feature of a parent feature.
Yeah, while you're switching over screens, Vedran Stojnovic from the stream chat was asking, can you share the project that you've made? Is it something that you can make public so that people can see a nicely set up project with all the relations?
Yes, I for sure can share something like I used here in the example. I connected it to PostGIS, but I can convert it to GeoPackage easily. So yes, I can share it.
If you make the project and even put everything in one GeoPackage with the project file in the GeoPackage, we've got this project sharing portal on the plugins.qgis.org. We can upload it there for you, and
that'd be great.
Oh. All right, we will.
All righty.
So thank you, Dave, for the introduction. I share my screen now.
Awesome, I can see.
Okay, nice, thanks. Since QGIS 3.18, there is a new class, Abstract Relation Editor Widget. To make it simple, this class can be inherited into Python, into plugins, to override the Relation Editor widget and making personalized widgets. I will show you some relation widgets that we programmed. I will start with the linking relation editor. There were some people which were complaining that the interface to link existing children to to a feature was was a little confusing. The selection was not so easy to understand for a QGIS beginner, and so we tried to develop a new plugin, a new way of linking children to a feature. We see that here in owners, which are linked to an apartment, this part looks normally like like we are used. But if we try to link another user, another owner to the apartment, we see a whole new linking dialog. On the left side, we have all the possible owners. And on the right side, we have the owners which are linked to this apartment. Now I could easily remove one or remove all and add the new owner to the apartment. Down there we have the usual filter possibility, like in the normal dialog, but we also have another a quick filter, which in most cases can be enough. You can just type some text there and select features based on that. If this was a if owner was a geometry table, I would have had more buttons there to select children's directly on the map, or when selecting one to see where it is on the map automatically. If I accept now, we see the owner of the apartment have changed. To change the widget from the normal relation editor to the linking relation editor, you can do it in the attribute form. Go there on owner. We see there for the relation widget type. Under widget type, if you have any if you haven't any plugin installed, then you have only the relation editor. In my case, you see you have 4 more widgets that you could choose. And in this case, I choose the linking relation editor widget. This widget has another interesting feature. As Dave was telling before, if I go in the buildings and I select one, for the address, as it can be only one address, it makes no sense to display the list there, because there will always be only one element. So if I choose for this relation the linking relation editor, I have a new cardinality which I can choose. It's one-to-one relation. Apply. Okay, let's go back to the form. And you see now the left part has disappeared, and I can. This is it's just collapsed, in fact. But so it can be collapsed by default, and the form it's less confusing for users. Another widget we have programmed is the ordered relation editor. Let's look in this case at the apartments. We see this building has 3 apartments: the lowest, the middle, and the top. The lowest is the floor 1. The top should be the floor 3, but we see it's a floor 2, and the middle it's at floor 3, and it should be floor 2. With this widget, we can drag and drop reorder elements in the children's. The drag and drop operation just change the value of the floor. Well, maybe this is not the best example, but well, if you want to have a list there of children that it's ordered by some value, you can do it with this widget. To configure it, let's look at building, apartments. Well, I choose the right widget type, and then I can choose which field of the linked layer. It's the field that is giving the order of the elements, and I can put a description, which is the text which is shown on the list, and optionally I could add an icon or an image which will be displayed near the text in the list. The last plugin and the last two widgets are the document relations. For that, I added two more tables to the project. Documents table. This is just a table with documents, which could be PDF or images or whatever. It's just the path to the documents. And another table which links the document with other tables. And this could be, in this case, an apartment table or a building table. So a building or an apartment could have a link to a document. In this case, we use the polymorphic relation. If someone is interested, we could go deeper into that later. But to make it simple with polymorphic relation, it's not a concept from databases. It's something I think unique to QGIS. You can link a feature in a table with features in multiple tables or multiple layers. And to show how the relation widgets look like, let's open a building form. Under documents, I have added the documents widget, and we see there we have a grid with some documents linked to this building. I can double click a document. It's been opened in my system viewer. Could open the picture. I have two ways to display. I could display the documents as a list or as a grid. Technically, this widget it's not implemented with Qt widgets, but with QML, the Qt markup language, if someone is interested. I could add a new, let's say in this building we have an apartment. I could add a picture of that apartment just by drag and drop. On the drop, then the normal form of the documents layer it's opened, and I can add the new one, and it's automatically linked there. Like that, I could, as usual, unlinked it or delete it, and so on. On the opposite side, in the document table, we used another plugin, another relation widget coming from the same plugin, which show the opposite direction. It shows for each document with was it's linked. For example, this picture, it's linked with the big red building from the buildings layer, and also with the apartment Bellevue from the apartments layer. And well, these two widgets need some configuration, but once it's done, it could be really practical to be used. Just to show you quickly, in in the documents of the building layer, it's configured like with a cardinality directly to the end table, to documents, and we have to set some more information, like which field in the end table is the path to the file, and if there is some default path which have to be considered. And so, yeah, well. So this was for my part. I could add some more words on multi-editing of relation, but I think first let's see if there are already some questions.
Thanks, Damiano.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, we do have one question from the live chat, and it's asking, are these new widgets also supported on the QField app?
No, at the moment, no. I'm not really sure it's available now. I'm not so into QField development. I think some features are supported and there are some possibility, but yeah, I'm not sure what's all available. The thing is that QField at the moment doesn't support Python plugins.
No, it doesn't support the Python plugin, but the ordered relation editor widget is already supported. This has been an implementation that needed to be done as well on QField. So the one where you can drag and drop the order, this is in QField available.
This one.
But in general, of course, the relation editor looks different in QField because this nested forms are not that user-friendly on a tablet. So everything is kind of, it cannot just taken over from QGIS. It needs to be created. And so it's mainly on request that we add a new functionality in QField. Like, for example, this was the case for ordered relation.
Can you talk a little bit about, there's the Discover Relations option that you briefly mentioned it when you were showing your project setup. If you have a Postgres database and you have these relations set up, some of these, as you've mentioned, are direct. There are direct equivalents, for example, a foreign key constraint between two entities, or many-to-many join tables. And then some of them maybe don't have direct equivalents in the database. So I'm wondering, like, if you have the database and you already have database rules, and you can discover those rules, but then you have to also add things on, like, just almost more a philosophical question of, like, where do you put the logic for different things, or how do you, like, manage a project where you've got like some of the business logic's fixed in QGIS and some is fixed in the database, and you have customers having issues, for example, with a different client in a Postgres database, adding or changing data and not following the constraints that are set up in the QGIS project.
Yeah. Well, first I can show quickly the functionality with Discover Relations. I already set it up before.
Does it only work with Postgres, or can you discover relations on other backends as well?
Honestly, I only used it with Postgres meanwhile, but in GeoPackage you have foreign key as well, and so I assume that it's with GeoPackage possible as well, and as well with more powerful databases like MS SQL, etc. It's mainly parsing the foreign keys, and then it creates here those relations.
And sorry, can you just stay on that screen a second? The strength, does it always assume it's an association, or how does it decide whether it's a composition or a...
As far as I know, it's only the association, because in the database, in the end, there are not any, with Cascade, yes. Let me think. With Cascade, it could parse it, but it doesn't do it, as far as I know. Sometimes it's not defined, or it should be allowed in the backend still, and then it's not set as Cascade, or with some databases it's not possible maybe, and so this logic part needs to be set in QGIS. Here everything is recognized as association. I'm not sure if in the hurry I created this. I know that I didn't create those here as Cascade. I'm not sure about the address anymore. Would need to have a quick look. Yes, of course. Sometimes it you could create your relations even without having defined foreign keys in the database. So it's powerful to make everything in the GUI, but mostly you have those constraints, and it's more proper to have them here. But sometimes you don't want to have it in the GUI because it's not needed or whatever, and so it's very user defined. This discovery relation, it's not since all the time. It's a little bit newer functionality, and before you have always to check your database about the relations they have, and then create them manually. And here you can add them like this here. I now unselected one, that's why only 3 appear. And then you have to set it to the composition if it's needed. But how it's now recognized with Cascade, I'm not sure. I need to clarify that, but I can do that.
Brilliant stuff. I don't know if we have any other questions in the room, or Tim, if you have any other questions. There are quite a few people interacting on the live chat. It's really nice to see everyone from around the world tuning in. Jigme's coming in from Bhutan. Brighton is coming in, of course, from Zim, etc. And Vedran mentioned that Niall Dawson recently implemented this specific thing for GeoPackage instead of using the Postgres database. So that will be quite an interesting video to go and have a look at. Yeah, any questions in the room from the rest of the people here?
I had a bunch of questions. I'm just trying to remember what they were. Can you bring up the layer properties dialog again of one of the form definition?
Building, for example.
Yeah. And, so when you choose the widget, this one here, you have relation. Sorry, there was another way when you choose the whether you want a value relation or.
Yes, this is the other way around. It's the direction from child to parent, like here in at apartment building here.
Yeah, so you have, if you can pull that down, you have value map, value relation, and then relation reference. I thought there was a fourth one, but maybe I'm confused. That used to be in this list, but maybe it's been replaced or something. But maybe I'm misremembering. So basically, your advice would be like use a value relation when you want a simple relationship without spending a lot of time configuring things, and the relation reference when you want more like complex workflows. Or?
Yes, exactly. If you want to have maybe a project where you think there will come additional requests and everything like that, or see the other way around, when I create the relation, then I can use relation reference, and in the building layer, I see there is the relation editor with the list of all the child functionality. When you set up this, then you're ready for the future, kind of. But if you just need to quickly configure something and add functionality to make a lookup to another table, then I think the value relation is fine. It's easier to configure as well. It's maybe actually what you do here, it's a little bit like when you configure a relation. You're here in the layer apartment on the field. It's called building. It's maybe more building ID. It should be named like this because this is the foreign key. And then you say on what table it should look up the value to write in. Concerning this naming with key column and value column, I think there is an issue open to make a little bit more descriptive naming, because one of them is the one that is stored and the other one is the one that is displayed in the drop-down. I think it's this way. Key is the what you see, and value is what is stored, and this needs to be the foreign key. Of course, it's more fault-prone than the relation reference, because here you can choose whatever you want, and maybe then you choose the wrong field here, and then it's you store in your foreign key field another value, and this would lead to errors. And the relation reference here, you don't have the possibility to choose what value. It's just a fixed value you need for foreign key that you defined in the relation. Yes.
Another question I had was, or two questions. One is, did you do any implementation where you can click on the parent on the map, for example, and then see all the children highlighted direct? And I saw in the table you have it, or in the attribute form. But if you select an apartment, that you can see the trees that belong to the apartment block or whatever.
Yes, exactly. I have to. You can do it, but I show it how to do it. The bad thing is that I don't have a child here in this project. Yeah. But here, when I have this apartment, it's here the highlight current feature. Then it would be highlighted when I click on it. Or you can set it like this here. Then you see it select. The mostly used navigation is here with a pan. That means this moved. Oh, no, wrong thing. The canvas move with the current scale to the child feature. You click here, or with the zoom to feature, then it scales down to the tree you need. Now it's a little bit abstract example, but if you have here geometries, then you could use this highlight feature here. I'm not sure if it's possible to, you can select it, then you see it selected like yellowish on the map. This highlight feature is only for the current feature, like the selection, like this here. In fact, maybe something often new users are confused is this two ways of selection. You have these boxes here, the yellow one, you have the blue one. The blue one is the one you have selected, kind of index. It's not action, it's an index. And this here is a selection where you can select multiple of those. When I have now the penthouse selected in yellowish, but I'm here on the ground floor and I delete it, penthouse gets deleted because this was the selected one. And this is another situation when we thought about this to create plugins overriding this relation editor, sometimes to use it a little bit as prototype as well. With plugins, we have the possibility to create simpler GUIs, simpler forms for users that improve it a little bit like that. Because the first user request for the linking relation, the one Damiano showed with the owners here, this one, not this one, the other one that Damiano showed, was that we implemented in QGIS core directly. But we didn't want to implement something and after the user think, it's nice, but it's not perfect like this. We need to change it again. That we don't have too many changes in the core. So we decided to create a plugin. We release it for those specific customers and users, but for everyone to be able to use it. And if we then see, hey, this is perfect, it should look in the core like this, then we can think about to implement it in QGIS directly. But and as well, this one with the section, it was an idea, maybe we can improve that. It's not that easy to have this multiple selection solved, but this is something that one could do in a plugin as a prototype and then try it out, how it feels, and later on decide to implement it in the core. This may be something about why we did kind of plugins and not implementing it directly in QGIS, because the use cases are very specific, and as soon as you make another functionality or replace a functionality, a user will miss the old one and so on.
So are the plugins collected across a bunch of different Python plugins in the plugin store, or are they like only specific to your customers, or have you made like one relations plugin which just adds in a whole bunch of new widgets?
Now in the linking relation editor plugin, the one Damiano showed, we have these two functionalities, like it's this one here is the owner, this here. We have this kind of linking manager here, Damiano showed before, as well as the one that looks like this for the one-to-one relation. It's made originally because of this reason, but then we decided to have this one-to-one solved like this as well in the same plugin, but the other tools are a specific separate plugin. Yeah, maybe this is a thought we can make if we have some functionality lots of users want to have, then to kind of collect it in one plugin. Maybe this would be a solution, yeah.
Just to make it discoverable.
But at the moment, they are separate plugins.
Vedran in the chat is asking about performance with bigger data sets. He's talking about the value relation, which I guess is not where you guys have been focusing your work, but can you maybe on the same topic talk about, are there any performance considerations you should have if you've got tables with very large collections of lookup entities in them? For example, if you've got 1 million apartments or 1 million owners, do you is it performant with the relations, or is there some special tricks you can do to make it more performant?
Yeah, you can with the not really sure about the performance, but what you could do is kind of have chain filters here to filter everything, that you don't have huge drop down widget, so you can make it kind of chained. Not sure if this makes sense here, but in the end you would have multiple drop down. First select the category and then the subcategory and then the value, something like this. Then you have 3 drop downs in a row. If it have instances to could be, not that sure. Another thing, but I know about the performance issue, or not an issue, but something that could have been solved. I had a big project with this direct cardinality to a child, and this was not very performant. There were 10,000 of entries in one and the other, and in the linking table a huge amount. And then this direct linking in the form here, in the relation editor, this was not performant at all. It took a long time until this is loaded and so on. And the solution we did then, we noticed that it's more performant when we make just the normal one-to-many relation here in the cardinality, like this, one-to-many. Let's use the normal one. And then in the linking table, we made this a little bit nicer. Like we are from the direction of the apartment, then we have here the owner, but here the open form button. And then it was solved like this. That we had here the owners, and this was much faster and had here only this entry, but we could open then this specific owner form instead of having it embedded here. And this made a huge difference in the end, because it didn't have to make the direct linking for every single entry here. It just could list all the entries, and then you made kind of the linking to the other end table, like the owners, manually by clicking on it. This is the situation. I know how with this trick you can improve the performance. The thing with the filtering, I'm not sure about it, performance improvements, but could be, not sure.
Just to add on that, I think that the list in the normal widget is not paginated at all. So it displays all elements, and in our plugins it's also the case too. But when you implement a plugin, you have all the freedom you want, and you could make some sort of pagination and to not display all the elements at once. So I think in the actual implementation there are performance problems, but they could be improved.
Thank you for your answers. I think I'll stop asking questions because we're running to the end of our session.
Yeah, we're running low on time.
I have maybe a question you can speed answer is like, what happens if you delete or remove one of the layers from your project and then add it back in again? It breaks all the relations. Is there like a good way to like heal things again, or just don't remove layers from your project? Your best advice?
As far as I know, we can remove it, and then it's gone. You see here, what is left is the owner apartment to the owner list, not the other way. So when I reintroduce it now here, then I have to recreate or rediscover it. So we do have some kind of fallback functionalities in the code, but Yeah, it's a little bit black magic sometimes. For example, when you have here or not here in the buildings in the relation reference. Oh, now I deleted it. Yeah. In the relation reference, when I have there in the configuration relation created, that does not exist anymore because it's deleted or something, and then it has kind of the fallback to look up a table that is named like this name, even if it's recreated. Because it receives another ID, the layer ID, because it's unique, and then it has fallback functionality for that. And if, for example, you import the QML style QML here with a form configuration containing these references, then relations are created with that. But these are more kind of fallback to don't ruin your project. But yeah, I would suggest to be a little bit, not too much rely on them, because yeah, as I said, it's fallbacks with maybe a little bit black magic, how I say sometimes. Maybe the other know it better, how it works in the back end, and so it's maybe proper, but yeah.
Thank you.
You have to be careful with
Alrighty.
it.
Brilliant stuff. I will have to end our session there because we are running low on time. Thank you so much to Dave and Damian for giving us an amazing presentation and a lot of things to think about. These are really useful plugins, and I think people using databases and relating all their data and the different tables will really get a lot of use out of this information. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thanks from me too. Thank you.